Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us bright and early. We have a lot of viewer comments we're going to get to, and then I have probably a dozen or more stories where there's no way to segue, but they're all very important. So we're going to get to those. But first, viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, good morning, Steve. A $3 billion investment by George Soros, China, and the Communist Party. How many hungry children would that have fed? Jeff Foxworthy says it best, you can't change stupid. If and when they get their way, they will wonder why they lose their freedom of speech. Right to bear arms. Bill of Rights, gone. They are the means of their own demise, just too ignorant to know any better. But hey, at least they feel as though they are part of something and accept it. I guess no King's rally actually showed how much white privilege there actually is. Ask the protesters why there are hardly any minorities at the protest. Guess they do miss their king and dictator party. It's only Democrats that believe you should have been fired and lost your job if you didn't get the jab. Also believe that freedom of speech only applies to what they believe. They literally are an emotional wreck because that's all I have is their emotions. They can't define what a woman is, but they declare women's rights. You literally can't make this stuff up. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Comment from Jack. He says, good morning, Frank, and good morning, Jack. The only way that troops on the ground in Iran is if our or Israel's intelligence has exact locations of the enemy leaders to do like they did in Venezuela. Cutting off the head of the snake works only if they are following only one snake. There could be 100. Otherwise, I don't believe it is a good idea. Hopefully, Trump knows a lot more info than we do. I would hope so. Jack is praying that Trump has a shock and awe trick up his sleeve that will totally reverse the downward trend of things. We're going to be talking a lot about Iran now. I know last night Trump posted a clip of a massive blast after a 2,000-pound bunker buster bomb rips through an Iranian ammunition depot. A high volume of 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs was used in the strike posted by Trump on Truth Social. The footage that caught the president's eye is one of several videos of fiery blasts that have taken place in Isfahan, the country's third most populous city, and the location of the majority of Tehran's 60% enriched uranium, as well as a sprawling missile city. One purported video showed a mushroom cloud forming over the target of one of the airstrikes and the sky turning red-orange from the column of flame. The explosions were so powerful that they could be seen from the Meteosat 12 weather satellite. Okay. Now, U.S. Central Command did not immediately respond to a request for comment. We're going to be talking a lot more about Iran, but I want to get through some quick stories. First of all, it was announced yesterday. I think this is great. Usha Vance, the second lady. She announced yesterday that she is launching a podcast for children during which she plans to read different stories aloud alongside special guests. Storytime with the Second Lady, my new podcast for kids. Join me and my special guests as they read good books out loud and share why they love to read. Episodes are available on YouTube and Spotify. The podcast will feature Vance and sometimes a guest reading stories out loud. Her first episode, posted on Monday along with 2 other readings, featured the tale of Peter Rabbit. All right. The YouTube channel description reads, designed to inspire a lifelong love of reading. Each episode brings together the Second Lady and a special guest to share cherished children's stories in an engaging and accessible format for families. The Second Lady's other 2 episodes include reading from Disney's Cars, where she was joined by former race car driver Danica Patrick, as well as Playground Lessons, where she was joined by its author, Brent Poppin. Vance spoke with Fox News in an interview about the project, saying in the last few years, as I've been teaching my kids to read and then reading a lot about this decline in literacy across the country and the way that this is a trend that's actually been stretching on now for a couple of decades, it's incredibly worrisome. And I see what you can do at home to complement all of these efforts that schools and states are making right now. And I have time on my hands now. I have the opportunity to talk to people about things I really care about, and this seemed like the right fit for this moment in life. So there you go. Just passing that along to you. Now, this came up on yesterday's broadcast. NASA has begun the countdown for humanity's first launch to the moon in 53 years. The 32-story Space Launch System rocket is poised to blast off tomorrow evening, as a matter of fact, with 4 astronauts. After a day in orbit around Earth, their capsule will propel them to the moon and back. There are no stops, just a quick U-turn around the moon. The nearly 10-day flight will end with a splashdown in the Pacific. Launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson said, "Our team has worked extremely hard to get us to this moment. Certainly all indications are right now we are in excellent shape." Managers said the rocket is doing well following the latest round of repairs. Forecasters said the weather should cooperate. So we'll be keeping a close eye on there. There is your update. Tomorrow is the first launch to the moon in 53 years. All right, a couple of quick things here. Again, no way to segue, just giving you all the breaking news right out of the gate at 6 a.m. Travelers in South Florida might soon find themselves transiting through Trump International Airport. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law yesterday that would rename the Palm Beach International Airport to the President Donald J. Trump International Airport, after the state's House and Senate passed the legislation last month. Once approved by the Federal Aviation Administration, it would take effect July the 1st. The measure also requires official government documents, or records, including maps, to use the new name once approved. Long known as PBI, the airport would also get a new code, you guessed it, DJT. The bill was introduced by Florida State Representative Meg Weinberger, who was present at Mar-a-Lago earlier this year for an unveiling of signage for the newly renamed President Donald J. Trump Boulevard, the 4-mile stretch between the airport and Trump's private club, formerly known as Southern Boulevard. Weinberger, needless to say, a Republican, said, "I'm proud to have played a role in to make that happen. I'm looking forward to the airport where greatness takes off." Well, you guessed it. Florida Democrats have already raised concerns as to whether the president or his family could stand to profit from the airport name change after trademark applications were filed by the private entity that handles licenses and trademarks for the Trump Organization last month. A spokesman for the Trump Organization said in February that Trump and his family would not receive royalties or licensing fees from the renaming of the airport, and the House bill's text specifies that branding would come at no cost. So why, if it's been clear that there is no cost, why put that in the piece about Florida Democrats raising concerns as to whether the president or his family could stand a profit off of it? Kimberly Benza, Trump Organization Director of Executive Operations, said, "To be clear, the president and his family will not receive any royalty, licensing fees, or financial consideration whatsoever from the proposed airport renaming." All right, there we go. Also, I had to mention this, and I want to put this up on the screen. Let me see if I'm prepared for that. Have you seen the renderings from what would be Trump's presidential library? Now, we know, ironically, a lot of this library will be paid for by those in the media who hate him due to those lawsuits. Well, his presidential library and museum intends to be built in downtown Miami. A video of the building's design shared by the president on Truth Social shows a skyscraper towering over the Magic City skyline with a Trump name illuminated near the building's peak, just below a red, white, and blue antenna that tops the structure. Okay, enough. I'll show you. This is from the New York Post, and they got it from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social. So there is the Trump library, paid for by people like Stephanopoulos. An American flag is positioned halfway up the building above what appears to be a Trump statue that sits atop a golden-colored main entrance to the museum and library. The statue appears to show the president with a fist in the air in the defiant fight, fight, fight gesture from the assassination attempt. Let's go through a couple of these. So that's more a ground angle. You see the president's picture up there on the right. Then that's the Air Force One that will be in the museum. And there's golden escalators, of course. And finally, this is what they're referencing with the Trump statue. That doesn't look like an entrance to me. That looks like an auditorium. But it says, upon entering Visitors will be greeted by the iconic presidential plane, Air Force One, which is sitting next to a golden escalator, an apparent nod to how Trump announced his first run for the White House back in 2015. The video shows military helicopters, fighter jets, and even a tank lining the open hallways going up to the building. The sky-high tower will also house replicas of the Oval Office, the Presidential Walk of Fame, oh man, and the new White House ballroom. Oh, I love that. The Presidential Walk of Fame that drove so many in the media crazy. A modern-looking auditorium is also shown in the video, as well as a terrace garden with fountains. The building appears wrapped in glass with windows lining every floor, unlike former President Barack Obama's library and museum in Chicago, which has drawn comparisons to a monolith and the Death Star. Trump's library and museum is being designed by Florida-based architecture firm Bermelo Ajamel, which is owned by Woolper, of course. The Presidential Library Foundation was incorporated in Florida last year to raise money for the construction of Trump's library and museum. The White House said the building will serve as a fitting tribute to one of the most consequential and successful presidents in American history. White House spokesman Davis Ingalls said the Trump Presidential Library will be one of the most magnificent buildings in the world and a living testimony to the indelible impact President Trump has made on America and its people. The president's son, Eric, revealed on social media that he has spent half a year working on the library and museum along with his team at the Trump Organization. Over the past 6 months, I have poured my heart and soul into this project with my incredible team at the Trump Organization. This landmark on the water in Miami, Florida, will stand as a lasting testament to an amazing man, an amazing developer, and the greatest president our nation has ever had, said Eric Trump. So there you go. There is your Trump Presidential Library. All right, your thoughts on that. Okay. We've got a couple things. I know Stephen mentioned the No Kings rally. David Marcus has a really good piece. We're going to get to that in just a moment. A couple other quick stories, just updates from past programs, and a couple things that missed our desk yesterday. But when we return, kind of a quick update, if you will, on Jimmy Kimmel and his tone-deaf joke, if you want to call it a joke, essentially demeaning plumbers because of Mark Wayne Mullen's past career. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Stay with us. We're just getting warmed up, and we're already having a blast. Stay with us.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselsen's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselsen's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid 50s to mid 60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple quick stories to get to. You know Mike Rowe. He was the host of Dirty Jobs. I guess he's got some type of show called Everyman, or maybe it's just Everyman host Mike Rowe. Called out late-night host Jimmy Kimmel for his tone-deaf comments, mocking Markwayne Mullin for being a former plumber, admitting he did not like that statement. He ripped into Kimmel over his remarks, which some have called elitist. Rowe said he took offense at the suggestion that skilled workers should never evolve into something new, asking if Mullin's career progression from plumbing business owner to Congress and then to a top cabinet official is not the embodiment of the American dream. Being offended is always a choice, and I don't choose to be offended by a joke, even one that comes at the expense of the skilled tradespeople my foundation tries to elevate. But I am a tad bit hurt by the suggestion that skilled workers should never evolve in something new and that competence is somehow limited to one vocation. Obviously, expertise and skill are important. If I need a new kidney, I prefer a doctor to do the surgery, not a late-night talk show host. But if the doctor in question used to host a talk show, why would I hold that against them? That's a fair point. All right, just as a quick update from that story from last week. All right, so Stephen mentioned the No Kings rally, and I thought David Marcus put this really succinctly. He said, at crafty No Kings rallies, the participants are the puppets. I'll let you in on a little secret. In the performing arts, the most annoying people are puppeteers. This is because they make you look at their absurd creation of paper mache and then make you pretend it's the most important thing you've ever seen. This is precisely what the No Kings protesters who take to American streets every few months represents. Even the ones holding insulting and crude signs instead of puppets demand to be taken seriously when they are anything but. The very name of these protests is a farcical facade, a false mask of faux outrage, because President Trump is not a king. It is an argument absurd on its face because, trust me, if Trump were king, the GOP Senate would have broken the filibuster and passed the SAVE Act by now. Well, that's a really good point. Sorry, my headphones are just down a little bit. There we go. If Trump were king, every immigration, customs, and enforcement civilian worker would have been paid over the last month instead of pinching pennies. I also imagine King Donald would have gotten a few more of his judicial appointments approved. The notion that Trump just does whatever he wants is ridiculous. The man can't use the men's room without some Obama-appointed federal judge trying to block his access. Let's take a look at some of the insane blovations that the nation was treated to during Saturday's cross-country protests. Here's what Hollywood... Oh, and Stephen mentioned this, but 500 groups with $3 billion in revenue are behind the No Kings protest. Wow. But here's what Hollywood legend turned old man yelling at clouds Robert De Niro said at the No Kings Day event in New York. He could do all the blanked up things that he's been doing without the collusion of Congress and the goons in his administration. That doesn't sound like much of an almighty king to me. How about the congresswoman from Minneapolis, Ilhan Omar? This was her oddball take. Quote, I could have never imagined a day would come when we were staring down at this kind of creeping authoritarianism. Once again, the nature of this so-called authoritarianism wasn't explained. And speaking of Somalis, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz chose to center them in his remarks, insisting for some reason that, quote, we'll never leave the side of Somali Minnesotans. Your great-grandchildren will be here when that orange clown is in the dustbin of history. This, of course, assumes that there's room in the dustbin of history next to Walz's own political career, which was destroyed when he let his beloved Somali fraudsters steal billions from taxpayers. Let's get back to this idea of puppet for a moment, because the No Kings protests no longer just hold puppets, often of Trump doing something disgusting. They've literally now transformed into the puppets themselves. The inflatable frog costumes made fashionable in violent Portland anti-ICE riots and have now become ubiquitous at No Kings rallies. The message of the costume is, how can something so silly and fun be dangerous? The rather obvious answer to that question is that when Democrats and the left act like petulant children and refuse to fully fund immigration and customs enforcement, Innocent Americans like Loyola University student Sheridan Gorman are murdered by illegal immigrants. You never see any sad inflatable frogs at the funerals of our fallen. In the end, everything about these No Kings protests are fake. Everything is a mask. Everything is a puppet, because the central claim that we are ruled by King Donald is just hyperbole. It is divorced from reality. Sadly, notwithstanding the fictional nature of the central complaint of the No Kings protests, the left does understand the value of big in-person crowds, and they will continue to not just garner biased national media attention, but will also fire up the Democrats' base. This is why the news that the Republicans are moving closer to a midterm convention, with reports homing in on Dallas as a location, is welcome for conservatives. Though it is not in their nature, conservatives must have a greater footprint on the streets, and a convention is the perfect way to achieve that. In the meantime, expect the inane puppetry of progressive protests to continue unabated, and for the puppets and the protesters to grow more and more angry and unhinged. Because as long as Donald Trump is president, crown, scepter, and orb or not, these people will continue losing their minds. I thought that was a great piece by David Marcus, just to kind of encompass what we saw on Saturday's coverage. Okay, the Army is launching a probe after the military helicopter was filmed hovering yards from Kid Rock's home. Have you seen the video of this? The Army launched an investigation after a military helicopter was seen in viral video hovering yards away from Kid Rock's Tennessee estate during a training run on Saturday. Major Montrell Russell, an Army spokesperson, confirmed that the branch had begun an administrative review to assess the mission and verify compliance with regulations and airspace requirements. The Army is aware of a video circulating online that appears to show AH-64 Apache helicopters operating in the vicinity of a private residence in the Nashville area. Army aviators must adhere to strict safety standards, professionalism, and established flight regulations. There was no official request for the helicopters to visit Kid Rock's residence, which is near Fort Campbell, according to Major Jonathan Bless. Kid Rock, a prominent supporter of Trump, shared the video of himself saluting the low-flying chopper on social media, sending the internet into a frenzy. Kid Rock captioned the post, "This is a level of respect that blank for brains, governor of California, will never know. God bless America and all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for her." In the video, the Michigan native saluted the chopper, while standing beside a faux Statue of Liberty. The helicopter drifted low near his infinity pool before flying away. They also flew over Nashville's No King protest that same day, though Bless noted that the training run was unrelated to the nationwide demonstrations. Yes, we are moving through a lot here this morning. Stay with us. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
New season, new look. Shop Raymore and Flanigan's Spring Style Sale to save up to 25%. Bring your living room to life with sofas starting at $559 and sectionals starting at $1259. Or refresh your dining space with sets starting at $449. Don't wait for comfort. Enjoy delivery in 3 days or less on thousands of in-stock items. We also offer flexible financing, so you can buy now and pay over time. Spring into savings and fresh new styles at Raymore and Flanigan.
The final days of Move Metal in March at McGuire are here. Only a few days left to save big on thousands of in-stock vehicles. Last chance to lock in the lowest rates of the year. Get top dollar for your trade and no payments for 90 days thanks to Beginnings Credit Union. Time is running out. Our biggest savings event of the year ends March 31st. Hurry in for the final days of Move Metal in March at any McGuire location today.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I missed so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Yes, I know we've covered a lot this morning already. A little bit all over the place. Did you see the Secret Service agent who accidentally fired his gun while guarding former First Lady Jill Biden last week? Shot himself, we now learn, in the buttocks. The agent's non-life-threatening injury following the negligent discharge at Philadelphia International Airport was initially described as a leg wound by the Secret Service. When he tried to holster his gun, he shot himself, yes, right in the butt cheek, said Real Clear Politics reporter Susan Crabtree. Asked about Crabtree's reporting, a Secret Service spokesman told the Post, "It is accurate that the agent suffered an unintentional self-inflicted gunshot wound to his, quote, hip area." The spokesperson noted that an additional claim reported by Crabtree that the agent was using a flashlight on his firearm to search for a misplaced cell phone was not what was reported to us from the scene. Philadelphia police told CBS Philadelphia that the gun went off while the agent was in an unmarked Chevrolet SUV. Now, Biden was not present at the time of the incident, which did not impact the former First Lady's movement whatsoever. Okay. Hey, did you see, we have J.D. Vance and others rooting out fraud? Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the Trump administration has received more than 700 tips through a Treasury Department reporting portal as the department announced new steps aimed at uncovering fraud involving Medicare, Medicaid, and other government health care programs. What is neat about this is that the anti-fraud push is expanding rapidly, comparing it to a suitcase in an airport. If you see something, say something. Bessent said financial institutions are increasingly serving as the front line in identifying financial fraud, noting the suspicious activity reports have risen 20% under the leadership of President Trump and J.D. Vance. Now, this is why I bring it up. He pointed to unusual transfers by nonprofits such as daycare centers and hospice providers, saying that when they begin wiring big round numbers out, that's a problem. Bessent said the Treasury Department has already received over 700 leads, though through its reporting portal, many of which are now under active investigation. He said the government can pay whistleblowers up to 30% of what they recover, the reward for the recovered funds. 30%. You could be talking about life-changing money there if you know about some of the fraud and some of the numbers we've been looking at in New York and elsewhere. Okay, how do we want to segue? Like I said, we're not even going to try to segue because we got to get to Iran. I've actually got quite a few New York updates as well. These are just oddball stories, and we're going to get right to them. Eric Swalwell, we know he's running for governor of California, has issued a cease and desist letter to FBI Director Kash Patel. Kash Patel has made threats to release investigative files about a suspected Chinese spy who infiltrated Swalwell's office. There are some suggestions of perhaps a relationship there. In the letter, Swalwell, who is considered the Democrat frontrunner in the race for California as governor, demanded the FBI agree within 3 days not to release the files and that doing so could result in legal action. I wonder what he has so much to hide. Swalwell held a press conference Monday insisting the case is closed and accused Patel as a, quote, temporary employee engaged in a horrendous abuse of power in digging up the investigative files about him and Christine Fang, a suspected Chinese Communist Party asset who cultivated ties with the East Bay representative starting when he was a Dublin City Council member. Fang, also known as Fang Fang, was a student at California State University East Bay who began schmoozing Swalwell at events, according to Axios, even bundling donations for his campaign and recommending interns for his office. Trump officials ordered FBI agents to compile records of the decade-old investigation of Swalwell's ties to Fang, who reportedly left the U.S. in 2015 after worming her way into Swalwell's orbit and carrying on a romantic or sexual relationship with two Midwestern mayors. Sean Hecker and Norman L. Eisen, attorneys for Swalwell, called the move a smear attempt to undermine the run for governor, adding that releasing the files would violate the Privacy Act of 1974. Quote, the congressman has never been accused of wrongdoing in that matter, and your attempt to release the file is a transparent attempt to smear him and undermine his campaign for governor of California. Your actions threaten to expose you, others at the FBI, and the FBI itself for significant legal liability. The FBI and a House Ethics Committee did not identify any wrongdoing on Swalwell's part in the espionage case, but former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy ordered a House ethics probe when he became Speaker in 2021. Swalwell waved away the scandal, calling it lies and we'll say baloney, adding independent folks have said enough on this. All right, that's an update. Oh, your thoughts. Do I want to wait for this part? I do. I want to wait on that one. We're going to show you, well, a couple of outrageous statements coming from the left. But first, here's one. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse called for EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, former New York State gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin, to leave office, marking the latest move by Democrats to try to remove a Trump cabinet official. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse wrote on X, quote, lying Lee Zeldin deceived Congress, the courts, and the American people. I'm calling on him to go. I don't understand it. I know they say Gavin Newsom's making a name for himself on this. The nicknames, you just can't pull it off like Trump does. It just comes off looking, I don't know, like kind of follow the leader. Kind of looks like you're trying too hard. Lion Lee Zeldin. Deceive Congress. Okay. Zeldin and his merry band of Doge boys killed off grant programs based on ideas and phrases they didn't like and wanted to cancel. None of this was based on the required individual review he pretended to have done. That's a Zeldin lie under oath, the Zeldin lie that is sanctionable. So for that reason today, I'm calling on Lee Zeldin to go. It is bad enough that he's weaponized the EPA to do the bidding of the giant fossil fuel and chemical corporations that donated to Trump's campaign. But if he can't be relied on to tell the simple truth to Congress, to answer simple questions honestly, how can anybody in this body believe him? Or is the new rule that lying is okay if it's done for big polluters? Whitehouse's call for Zeldin to leave office comes as Democrats have increasingly targeted Trump administration officials with demands for resignations and impeachments. I bring this up because keep it in mind, if the Democrats take back the House and the Senate, you're going to have nothing but impeachments. You're going to have nothing but hearings. It is going to be a frustrating and boring 2 years. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about Iran in just a moment. I have to mention this. The mayor of Rhode Island's capital city is calling for a mural reportedly backed by Elon Musk to honor Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian woman whose brutal murder while riding a North Carolina train prompted calls for harsher punishments for career criminals. That mayor calling for it to be taken down. It's a beautiful mural they just started working on to honor Miss Zarutska. The mural, located on the exterior of the Dark Lady, an LGBTQ plus club in downtown Providence, remains incomplete. The office of Mayor Brett Smiley told the news outlet that he wants the artwork taken down. Quote, the murder of the individual depicted in this mural was a devastating tragedy, but the misguided, isolating intent of those funding the murals, like this one across the country, is divisive and does not represent Providence. He says he continues to encourage our community to support local artists whose work brings us closer together rather than divide us. Artist Ian Gaudreau, who began the work last week, told the news outlet that he never intended for the tribute to be political. Upon learning of a project to memorialize Zarutska, Musk said he would donate $1 million in a September 2025 post. So somehow honoring Zarutska is divisive because, again, this shows the support, I guess, for the criminals. They don't want it known that there's crime out there, murder. It's just a weird scenario. We've got some other comments from some other people. I see some comments from you. So keep them coming in. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV. Big Fox.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid 50s to mid 60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over. Staying
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Mark writes in, I saw that video of the military copper. Why do I keep saying it weird? Chopper at Kid Rock's. I didn't know he had a Statue of Liberty, and I also didn't know his house is a White House look-alike. Totally cool. Yeah, they call it like the second White House or something like that. Yeah, it's designed to look like the White House. Sergeant Dave writes in and says, morning, Franco. Good morning, Sergeant Dave. So every time a low-flying military plane or helicopter flies over my home on Top Ridge Road in Tioga, Pennsylvania, which happens a couple times a year, can I get national news coverage? No, probably not. The reason this is getting national news coverage is they want heads to roll. Because Kid Rock has been such a big proponent of Trump. He's been such a big supporter of Trump. So to give him that viral video moment, that can't stand. So someone in the military has to lose their job because there's a hatred for Kid Rock. There's a hatred, as you know, for anybody that supports, especially so actively supports the president like we see with Kid Rock. So that's why it's getting the national coverage. At first, it looked like a fun thing. And I still think it is, just a kind of a neat little tribute. And then I saw as the day went by, more people calling for an investigation. Okay, now I hope you're not eating breakfast. And I apologize in advance. The Washington Examiner, and the story is done by Peter Laffin, with the headline, Hillary Clinton 2028. It's not as crazy as you think. Again, the Washington Examiner. In Focus delivers... What? Oh, there we go. Don't look now, but Hillary Clinton is headed to New Hampshire. The Granite State's Democratic Party just announced that the former Secretary of State and two-time presidential candidate will give the keynote address at the McIntyre-Shaheen dinner on April the 25th. Could it just be a harmless speech? Sure. But that dinner's keynote slot is usually reserved for Democrats plotting a White House run. In fact, it was founded in 1959 by supporters of John F. Kennedy with the explicit purpose of boosting his campaign. And in every presidential election cycle since, the eventual Democratic president and vice president have stood at that podium. And nearly every keynote speaker who wasn't already in the White House was angling to get there. At first glance, the idea of another Clinton run sounds crazy. The former First Lady will be 81 in 2028, and the Democrat Party is still smarting over its fatal decision to clear the field for an 81-year-old in 2024. And her designation as the first Democrat to lose a general election to Donald Trump would seem to disqualify her outright, especially at a time when the party is determined to find a fresh face. But not all 81-year-olds are cognitively equal. Former President Joe Biden's decline was so extreme that it required around-the-clock vigilance on the part of his staff to keep him on script and out of public view whenever possible. It got so bad the staffers dressed in disguise to remain by his side. Clinton, by contrast, has been spoiling for debates in the public eye as of late. In mid-February, she appeared at the Munich Security Conference, where she sparred on a panel with Hungarian intellect Gladyn Papin and others over the Ukraine war. Her remarks were sharp, forceful, and substantive, and she often appeared to get the better of her younger co-panelists. And then in late February, she testified before the House Oversight Committee for a Jeffrey Epstein deposition, tangling with Republican members and pushing back forcefully against conspiratorial questions. After 7 hours of heated questioning, no one walked out of that room calling Clinton frail, just the opposite. Representative Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert tried to rattle her with insinuating questions about her husband's relationship with Epstein. Clinton swatted them away like flies. A somewhat chastened Representative James Comer, the committee chairman, and no friend of the Clintons, called the session productive and said he thought members learned a lot. In terms of mental acuity and readiness for battle, there is no comparison between Biden of last cycle and Clinton of this cycle. Biden couldn't give a simple press conference as president. Clinton is brawling in the streets with ideological adversaries and is more than holding her own. After nearly 4 decades in the public eye, no one would make a mistake that Clinton is a fresh face. But her sharpness and her apparent hunger for combat would make her more plausible than many realize. But Clinton wouldn't run to prove her own plausibility, only to win. Would there be a path to a second nomination for Clinton if she decided to run? The question depends on what you think of the emerging Democrat field. Clinton herself recently said the Democrats have a good bench for 2028. Whether Clinton has a path depends on 2 factors. The first is simple, arithmetic. Clinton herself said she expects the field to have 10 to 15 candidates. In such a fragmented primary, a plurality of votes, say 25%, is all it would take to win an early state, such as New Hampshire, when most candidates would remain in the race. Senator Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire in 2020 with 25%. For a candidate with sky-high name recognition and deep ties to party infrastructure, winning a quarter of the New Hampshire vote doesn't seem too crazy a proposition. Early wins in states like New Hampshire or South Carolina, where Clinton's deep loyalty among black voters could carry the day. You catapult Clinton into a 2- or 3-way race for the nomination, and from there, anything is possible. The second factor is the lay of the land. The Democratic field is already sorting itself into lanes, and the one Clinton would most likely take, the establishment lane, appears to be the most vulnerable. Kamala Harris is polling well early, but her 2020 campaign collapsed before a single vote was cast. And the more voters saw of her in 2024, the less they liked her. There's a little reason to think 2028 would be different. It's difficult to imagine Clinton being intimidated by the former vice president. Governor Josh Shapiro is probably the most talented candidate in this lane, but his unflinching support of Israel is a millstone around his neck in today's Democrat Party. Isn't that sad? Again, being your support of Israel, being Jewish, is a negative in the Democrat Party today. Whew. Clinton, too, supports Israel, but has spent decades threading the needle on the issue. And unlike Shapiro, she's unlikely to be asked whether she's ever been an Israeli agent. I don't want to go through all the other people. It isn't crazy to think Clinton could ride the establishment lane into a final face-off against Governor Gavin Newsom and whoever emerges from the progressive lane, possibly AOC, who exposed herself as an amateur on the world stage at Munich. Newsom, whom betting markets favor for the nomination, his early national polling trails Harris, but he leads her decisively in California, which is probably a truer measure of their relative strength. appears to be the rare candidate in a lane of his own. His national profile, aided by fawning media coverage and natural political talents, allows him to chart his own path towards the nomination. But he is anything but inevitable. His performance at Davos earned him knocks from even fellow Democrats. Party elder David Axelrod accused him of excess grandstanding, saying, "Haven't we seen enough self-puffery in our leaders? Why can't people just be as courageous as me?" Routine is tedious. His governing record in California, where he oversaw a mass exodus of residents from the state, has yet to come under sustained scrutiny. Newsom is a formidable presence, but he isn't clearing the field. If you're a Democrat name brand such as Clinton, you have to ask yourself, could I piece together a big enough chunk of establishment votes to make it into the final round? Could I play Newsom and a progressive off one another and slip past them both? At this stage, it isn't likely, but it isn't crazy either. Come April, Clinton will be in Nassau. You can bet her allies will be watching closely to see how she is received. I know I spent too much time on that, but there you go. The Washington Examiner, Hillary Clinton 2028, it's not as crazy as you think. On that note, let's take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
So Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? Democrats can't figure out enough ways to waste taxpayer dollars. Representative Pramila Jayapal proposed reparations for illegal immigrants, specifically targeting those traumatized by ICE. Yeah, we mentioned that on yesterday's program. Yeah, I mean, that's what she's proposing. Not really a surprise from a quote-unquote firebrand like Jayapal, but kind of shows you where her, I guess you could say, loyalties are. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Thank you for warning us about the Hillary rerun announcement. Although it was going to be, let me try that again. Thought it was going to be something both gross and disgusting, but turns out to just be ridiculous. To make it more so, maybe have Harris as a running mate or dust off Walls for even more bizarreness. Thank you very much. I do think there's something very telling, though, in a piece like that, where they admit in today's Democrat Party that supporting Israel or being Jewish is seen as an anchor, is seen as something that's going to bring you down. That's, well, to that point, listen to this. Leaked audio showed a left-wing Democratic hopeful for Michigan Senate telling his campaign staffers he wanted to avoid taking a position on the death of Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei because many voters were distraught over it. What in the world is going on in Michigan, folks? Abdul al-Saad warned his staffers that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad about Khamenei's death. So he'd pivot straight to the pedophile president instead. Quote, I'm just going to go straight to pedophilia, frankly, he said to his staffers when asked how he would deal with questions about Khomeini's death. I'd just be like, pedophile president decides that he doesn't like the front page news, so he decides to take us into another war. Khomeini, who has been one of the world's longest-serving dictators at the time, had been killed by Israeli strikes a day earlier when this audio was recorded. Now, we don't have to go through the history of the Ayatollah. I think we know the history. But despite typically being a Democrat stronghold, President Trump won a plurality in Michigan amid a revolt against Kamala Harris over the Israel-Hamas war. Al-Sayed explained to his teams, I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today, meaning about the Ayatollah Khomeini being killed. So, like I just don't want to comment on Khomeini at all. Like, I don't think it's worth even touching that. We have the moral high ground here, he went on, noting that reporters will try and bait us into saying, yeah, but isn't it justified now that they took Khomeini out, right? And I just think for us, we've got to be like, no. The progressive Senate hopeful also suggested his campaign could pivot from questions on Khomeini's to attack the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. Someone on his team was apprehensive about him pivoting to Israel. You know what benefits from the war? It benefits Israel, who has captured too many of our politicians through AIPAC contributions, he mused. Al-Sayed, a trained physician, is a Muslim, though it's not clear whether he's what sect of Muslim he is. He is generally viewed as the most progressive among the major candidates jockeying for Michigan's Senate seat, being vacated by retiring Senator Gary Peters. Michigan's Senate seat is widely seen as a possible pickup opportunity for Republicans who have coalesced around former Representative Mike Rogers, who enjoys Trump's backing. Al-Sayed is facing off against Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow and Representative Hallie Stevens, widely seen as the more moderate contender for the Democratic nod. Anyway, we don't have to get through all of that. When asked for a comment about the leaked audio, Al-Sayed's campaign referred the post to a statement in which he alleged that a right-wing news outlet may have illegally and unethically obtained a deliberation about how to talk about this by way of a disgruntled former employee. This is only a distraction. Since this illegal and unjustifiable war has started, we've watched 13 brave service members lose their lives. We've watched our tax dollars wasted to raise our gas prices. We're paying over $1 a gallon more, making life even more unlivable. The entire MAGA base doesn't want to talk about the pain they're forcing us all into. All right, there we go. Let's take a short break. There's a lot of people sad. Don't mention Ayatollah Al-Khomeini. We're going to talk a couple other quick things about Iran. We've got some New York issues. Stay with us. A lot of people on the street this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox getting ready to wrap up hour number 1.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselsen's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative, energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselsen's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid-50s to mid-60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over. Stay
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, wrapping up hour number 1. Let's go to some viewer comments. No kings, right. I'm a Democrat, and I don't get to choose who I wanted to run for president. Good point. I'm a Democrat, and they tell me in the state I can't buy a gas stove. I'm a Democrat, and they tell me in the state eventually I have to buy an electric car. I'm a Democrat, and the product they sell is taxed Democrat, and the product they sell is taxed at 75%, where gas is only taxed at 13%. But yeah, he's the king. You raised some really great points there. Really great points, because think of how, and it goes back to what Steve said too, about people wanting you to lose your job if you didn't get the COVID shot. How many, especially in New York State, how many rules and regulations are they putting on your life to almost make it like you're living in a third world country? And to your major point there, Democrats didn't get to say who their candidate was. That's more of a king scenario. All right, Mark writes in, I hope Hillary Clinton does run for president because she doesn't stand a chance against J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. So let crooked Hillary try. Thank you, Mark. And Ken writes in, you're a man connected to all sides of the political world. So if anyone has the answer to this question, it would be you. Well, thank you, Ken. When the sheeple told Soros-funded protesters, why do so many of them dress up in bizarre costumes? That's a great point, Ken. Great question. There was someone that wrote a piece on it, and their theory was, this was a while ago we brought up on the program, the theory is because where those originated from were at anti-ICE protests, and with those silly costumes, they were able to get more violent. They were able to get more aggressive because no one was taking them seriously. I think, on the other hand, it means that your protest looks foolish and then no one's taking you seriously. But the thought was, or the theory was, why so many people are wearing those, not all of them, but then if there's violence, who's going to suspect the person in the chicken outfit or whatever the case may be? Because in many instances, some of them, they can cover up their face as well. So that's one theory. I don't know, because, go back to the Tea Party. I'm sure many of you attended a Tea Party rally at one point or another back in the day. Imagine if you started seeing people dressing up in costumes like that. You would have distanced yourself from the rally, saying, I thought we were being serious here. I thought this was about a real political discussion and real problems we had with Washington, not a costume party. I'm with you. I don't get it. It's bizarre to me, but it's a little bit of that left mindset, I suppose. I wish I had an answer for you. If anybody went to the King's Rally, and you, even if you didn't dress up, if you want to fill us in as to why, other than, and I think that was a good point that Arthur had, that was more in the anti-ICE protest, but they could cover their face, they could get away with more kind of aggressive behavior or violent behavior. That may be one of them, but if you ever thought. All right, we are wrapping up hour number 1. Stay with us. Hour number 2 moments away. I did want to remind you, we're going to be talking about Iran. We've got some New York State updates. Don't forget, on tomorrow's program, we're going to be talking with Doc Possum. You know what's crazy? Tomorrow's program will be the 2-year anniversary. I know we just had our 3-year anniversary on this program, but tomorrow will be the 2-year anniversary of moving to 2 hours with Frankly Speaking. Can you imagine we did this in 1 hour before? I can't. We must have missed a lot. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking with Joe Semplinsky. So Doc Possum tomorrow, Friday, something with Joe Semplinsky. All right, stay with us. Hour number 2, moments away.
With Steel Battery. Save up to $50 on select AK battery tools. Shop in-store or online.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. the Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and I'm so glad that you joined us for hour number 2. Okay, yesterday we had mentioned that Pope Leo had said that God rejects the prayers of those who wage war. And I saw kind of a, I don't know if you call it a meme or a viral post pointing to so many people in the Bible that were involved in war that God supported and answered their prayers. But Pope Leo warned that God rejects the prayers of those who wage war. Carolyn Levitt, when asked about this by reporters, said, "I don't think there's anything wrong with our military leaders or with the president calling on the American people to pray for our service members and those who are serving our country overseas." I would agree. Levitt and other members of the Trump administration have made a display of their Christian faith. At the start of the press conference, she said her team had just finished a little loud prayer before the briefing began. Boy, these articles are written with such disdain and anger at praying. We have one of these every single day. Never mind what the Pope said. Never mind. I mean, I tend to disagree, but I'm not Pope. But when you look at the way they get so angry at Pete Hegseth and Carolyn Levitt and others for having the audacity to say, pray for our troops, it goes to show you how out of touch they are with America, how out of touch they are in their echo chamber and in their bubble in Washington, where none of their friends are praying or none of their friends support Republicans. So it's just that echo chamber. Pete Hegseth has also used quasi-religious language to frame the conflict with Iran, offering a prayer last week at the Pentagon in which he said, "Let every round find its mark against the enemies of righteousness in our great nation." In response to the Pope's comments, Levitt, who is Catholic, along with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said the United States was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Leaders and troops have prayed during the most turbulent times in our nation's history, and if you talk to many service members, they will tell you they appreciate the prayers. In fact, I think it's a very noble thing to do. Okay, Iran's supreme leader, allegedly, Mojabi Khamenei, issued another rare statement. No, was not on video, was in no way, shape, or form seen, but did release a statement mourning IRGC Navy Chief Commander Alireza Tangziri, calling him a brave commander who attained martyrdom after years of struggle. Khamenei also described Tangziri as courageous and central to Iran's role in the Persian Gulf, adding that he died for his country so its military may continue on the path of Iran's maritime authority and resistance stronger and more firmly than in the past. This marks only the fourth public written message from Khamenei since succeeding his father. Again, always a written statement. All right. Now, Trump did put Iran on notice. And the speaker put Iran and the Speaker of the Islamic Republic's parliament on notice after Tehran attacked Israel's biggest oil refinery. He told the New York Post that his response is coming shortly. This coming out kind of late last night. You'll see shortly when asked about his response to the strike. As Trump brings more military might to the region that could inflict catastrophic damage on Iran, he encouraged what's left of Iran's regime to make a deal before it's too late and said he would hit them where it really hurt, their energy infrastructure. He exclusively told the New York Post that the U.S. will find out whether the speaker is willing to work with Americans soon. We're going to find out. I'll let you know more about that in a week. And that is Iran's Mohammed Badr Ghalibaf issued his own warning in response, writing on social media that attacking Iran's infrastructure would be a big mistake. The enemy promotes its desire as news while threatening our nation at the same time. Big mistake. If they hit one, then they'll take several back. God willing, the people of Iran, under the leadership of the Supreme Leader, will make the enemy regret the aggression and reclaim their rights. The president described a dramatic shakeup inside Iran, claiming the old guard has effectively been wiped out and replaced by a new group he said so far seem easier to work with. Quote, there's been a total regime change because the regimes of the past are gone, and we're dealing with a whole new set of people. And thus far, they've been much more reasonable. He said pretty much the other people are all dead. And then with the son that replaced Khamenei, Mojabi Khamenei, Trump said nobody's heard from him. He's very seriously injured. Then asked, is he still alive? Trump said, we don't know. We think probably yes, but in extraordinarily bad shape. All right. Oh, there's a lot of people talking about this, and I'm just passing this along to you. It's coming more from left-wing outlets, but I did see the clip. When asked about his confidence in Tulsi Gabbard, he said, yeah, sure. President Donald Trump offered a lukewarm endorsement of his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, saying, the reporter asking, do you still have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard, sir? Now, she has been seen as one of the most likely critics inside the administration about the war in Iran. He said, yeah, sure. I mean, she's a little bit different in her thought process than me, but that doesn't make somebody not available to say it. I would say that I'm very strong in the fact that I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, because if they have a nuclear weapon, they'd use it immediately. I think she's probably a little softer on that issue, but it's okay. Some people are. Most people aren't. Most people are saying, thank you very much for doing what you did. They are decimated right now. They're going to give up nuclear weapons. They're going to give us the nuclear dust. They're doing everything that we want to do. And you know what? They're going to go on and maybe have a great country again. But if they don't do that, they're not going to have a country. That's not even going to have a country. So she's softer on that issue, but I have other people, not too many. That's an issue that we've had great support on. You saw the CNN poll where Trump with MAGA, and I think MAGA is most of the Republican Party, is 100% approval. In fact, the younger gentleman that does a poll is very good, actually, because he's honest. He said, I've never seen 100% before. I'm 100% in the CNN poll, which just came out. Okay. Now, an ex-U.S. general, the former head of U.S. Central Command, claimed the war campaign in Iran is going further along than we would have expected based on years of battle simulations. Retired General Frank McKenzie, who served under President Trump and Joe Biden, insisted that the U.S. and Israel's ongoing bombardments would cripple Iran's military and pave the way to total victory. Quote, I believe that they will break. I believe that they will come to terms. This was on Face the Nation. I've simulated this for many years in many positions of Central Command. We're a little bit further along than we would have expected to be at this point in all the simulations that I've seen. The former commander said that the current goal was to reduce Iran's missile and drone capabilities through targeted airstrikes, which would free Tehran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz. The Islamic Republic shut down the critical rate. We know that. McKenzie said, what we're doing right now is we're reducing Iranian ability to target ships in the Strait through their short-range missiles, their drones, and other activities. We do that by maintaining air superiority over southern Iran on a 24/7 basis, looking for where these missiles are and striking them relentlessly. Once we reduce those to a very low level, then you'll be able to go in, if necessary, and sweep for mines. If you seize Karg Island, you really can shut down the Iranian oil economy completely. We need to continue to press them very hard because that is, in fact, the only thing they will respond to. All right, so there you go. All right, a couple of other things about Iran. We do have quite a few things just in general. The DHS, the government shutdown, a couple things there. New York issues. Blakeman looks like he's probably, that's the New York's gubernatorial candidate for the GOP. Looks like he may have to get a lawsuit going to get that matching funding. So we may get a chance to tell you a little bit more about that. But I do have some just strange, not strange, but just different kind of New York stories than we normally have. Anyway, stay with us. As I mentioned in the end of the last hour, we're going to be hearing tomorrow during the broadcast from Doc Possum. You remember Doc Possum? He played on our Salvation Army telethon, which was such a huge success. A huge success. $12,000. So Doc Possum was a very important part of that broadcast with his great music. So we are going to talk to him tomorrow, just see how he's been doing. Maybe he'll sneak in a song for us. Who knows? And then on Friday, Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski will be joining us. So we have an exciting and busy week in store for you. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselsen's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselsen's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wish maker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators.
What can this ball teach us about the way things move?
But right now, millions of kids go to schools that don't have the supplies they need just because of where they live. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You could supply a classroom like this one with a project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow. Learn more at donorschoose.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid 50s to mid 60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. Comment from a viewer: what happened to the Tea Party? Why are they not out there doing informational protests? That's a good question. I think perhaps you've heard me say this in the past. I think the Tea Party led to Donald Trump becoming president. I think the Tea Party was kind of MAGA before there was such thing as MAGA. And I think there's a couple things. This happens with large protest movements and large movements in general. Everybody was kind of vying to be the face of it, their organization be the leader of the Tea Party. And then at the local level, there was great people that were holding Tea Party rallies. I just think after a while, excuse me, it kind of runs, I wouldn't say run its course. It was very valuable. I just think people can't give up once a month, let's say, for an informational session, or, some people lose the passion, or let's face it, when, let's say for that instance, when Republicans do win, it's easy to say, oh, it's the gravy train here on out. And that's why we're so concerned about the lack of excitement for the midterms by Republicans. I don't think that lack of excitement's there, but we've got to be mindful of that, because people sometimes say, well, we won. Woke's dead. All these policies are dead, and we still got a lot of work to do, as you know. So I'm not sure exactly what happened to the Tea Party in general. I think it just kind of run its natural course, especially with the election of Donald Trump. Okay, back to Iran. International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi said that Iran's nuclear program has sustained enormous damage, but warned elements that were not destroyed persist. In the wake of both last summer's massive U.S. airstrikes and the current war in Iran, there was enormous damage, in particular during the 12-day war last year. He said the month-long Operation Epic Fury has included targets and objectives that go far beyond the range of the nuclear field. But even combined with the damage from last year's strikes, not everything was destroyed. He also agreed with CNN's Fareed Zakaria that one cannot bomb the knowledge away or eliminate Iran's intellectual progress toward nuclear weapons with an aerial bombing campaign. Don't forget that this activity of uranium enrichment, which is rather complex, is not something that is impossible to do. The methodology is quite sophisticated. The centrifuges, a spin at high velocity to separate the isotope of uranium, which is interesting from the one which is not. All these things Iran has mastered over the year. He noted that uranium enrichment is not per se a nuclear activity, and if the Iranians are patient enough, it can conduct it into small-scale operations that would be difficult to hunt down and destroy. You may have in Iran thousands or perhaps more of workshops or small factories where they could reproduce these capabilities. Okay. Oh, also we learned yesterday that Spain has closed its airspace to American aircraft involved in military operations against Iran. This move marks a significant escalation beyond Madrid's previous refusal to allow the use of jointly operated military bases. Defense Minister Margarita Robles confirmed the move on Monday, saying we don't authorize either the use of military bases or the use of airspace for actions related to the war in Iran. The closure, which compels U.S. military planes to reroute around the NATO member state on their way to targets in the Middle East, does not apply to emergency situations. Economy Minister Carlos Correpo addressed the decision during an interview with a radio station which responded to questions about potential repercussions for relations with the United States. Quote, this decision is part of the decision already made by the Spanish government not to participate in or contribute to a war which was initiated unilaterally and against the international law. All right, we see where Spain stands. John Brennan, a man that cannot be trusted, former CIA director, was on MSN Now, and he says our allies see the U.S. as no longer to be trusted under Trump. Well, you point out the 33% approval rating I've done. That's a trend, is a downward trend. It's a bad trend. We see that inflation is going to go up as a result of increased energy prices and across the board. So, I think that this trend is that they're doubling down in Iran, which is unfortunate because if they start to deploy troops and they put troops on Iranian soil, it's just going to get worse. And so it seems as though they're digging more and more as a way to justify and validate their initial decision to go in there. As far as our allies and partners around the globe, they see that the United States is no longer to be trusted the way it had been for the past 75 years since World War II. That the reliance on the U.S. and knowing the United States is going to be a real advocate and proponent for global peace and security, for human rights, for democratic movements, for alliance and partnership, as opposed to just dismissing the significance of NATO and tearing up different types of treaties and other types of things. So I think that, the trend line in the globe is that the United States now is no longer seen as this force of good globally, which is why I think a lot of countries are going to be hedging their bets with Russia, China, and others. That's former CIA director John Brennan. John Spencer has a piece, and I kind of want to move along here, but destroyed the regime's power without occupying Iran. And what the argument here, and this is from Fox News, John Spencer is saying the United States has not run out of options. It has plenty it has not used. Many that no one is talking about or that none of us can fully imagine without access to far more than exists in the public domain. Lastly, be careful of analysts who speak in certainties or rely on surface analogies. Iran is not Vietnam, Afghanistan, or Iraq. It is not 1968, 2002, or 2003. The context of each is fundamentally different. The political objectives from regime behavior change to regime survival are different. Past wars involved nation building, attempts to create democracies, prolonged fights against insurgencies, and enemies who enjoyed sanctuary outside the operating environment. Those are not the same conditions or objectives at play here. The geography, technology, intelligence, and regional dynamics are different. The options available today are far broader and more precise against the objectives. We know a lot about what has been struck. We do not fully know what remains. More importantly, we do not know what decisions will be made next by either side. That uncertainty is not a flaw in an analysis. It is the nature of war. Tanvi Ratna says that with one war, Trump is breaking the Middle East's old power structure. Whether that works remains uncertain. What is clear is that the Middle East is no longer operating under the same rules. This is not just a war with Iran. It is an attempt to change how the region functions and who gets to shape it going forward. All right, we got to take a short break. I see some comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We're going to move on from Iran here pretty soon. Yeah, we will. I got one piece by the New York Post editorial board on Iran. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Are you my rideshare?
No, I'm William Attar. Just reminding people, if you're injured in a rideshare crash, to give me a call.
Thanks.
Hey, what about me?
Yep, drivers too. Injured in a rideshare crash that wasn't your fault? Give me a call.
Got it. Rideshare crash? Call William Attar.
Right. Now on to the next rideshare. Rideshare crash? Only call William Attar.
Discover how the right mattress can transform your day. At Raymore and Flanigan, we carry brands built for real rest, including the luxurious new King Coil mattresses by Drew and Jonathan Home, and the unparalleled value of our new line Sleep by Raymore and Flanigan. Ready to feel the difference? Visit a sleep center to take a free comfort test. From plush to firm and everything in between, we'll help you find your perfect match. Sleep better, feel better, live better at Raymore and Flanigan.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread misalignment. Highest hospitalization. Also evacuation in the West.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
So, Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, I can't wait for the Democrat presidential primary. It would be so much fun to watch. 20 people on stage all singing the same radical left tune. The only thing that will separate them is who can say the worst thing about Trump and the Republicans. Unless Hillary throws her majestic hat into the ring, then they will have to coronate her majesty without a primary. Yes. Think about what fun us Republicans can have after that. Trump and Musk can fund the No Queens protest. I like it. Thank you very much, Ken. Oh, wave here. And I saw another comment. What's going on with the war between Russia and Ukraine? Sick of hearing about Iran. We should give Iran an ultimatum to get out of this, or that the city within many of them will drop the A-bomb on them. Yeah, there isn't a lot. That's a good question. I haven't heard really a lot about Russia and Ukraine. I think everything's focused on Iran. Thank you very much. But I will say the New York Post editorial board said, what must Iran agree to in any ceasefire deal? The headline concessions are obvious. Hand over all nuclear material, destroy all nuke capabilities, open the Strait of Hormuz, and stop killing your own people. We'd add destroy all missile capabilities, but the U.S. and Israel strikes have already done most of that. Tehran would also need to commit to cooperating in serious verification and monitoring of its compliance agreement, but definitely to include anywhere, anytime inspections. The price for peace should also include Tehran's commitment to internal reforms, guarantees of rights to peaceful protests for starters. In all, Washington needs to hear a genuine Iranian cry of uncle, not promises that regime can readily discard once the bombing stops. Again, we're simply talking about ceasefire terms here, not a full peace deal, and even that deal won't be the last word. The overall goal, a future Iran that is not a fanatical terror regime, will take prolonged effort, including something like the 1975 Helsinki Accords, and we don't have to go through the whole history of this. We're simply talking about what Tehran must commit to in order for the bombing and other operations to stop. It must agree to end the threats that prompted President Trump to launch Operation Epic Fury. Diplomats would go into much deeper detail. For example, opening the strait permanently and reliably likely includes destruction of the weapons and bases used to shut it down. Verification that the nuke program hasn't restarted will remain robust inspections at will, not just by UN bureaucrats, but by U.S. experts, or maybe Israeli or Arab ones too. The point is, the United States and Israel started this operation with clear, hard goals. Iran's rulers won't get the war to end without agreeing to make those goals a reality. They'd be wise to do so and cut their losses before allied forces make them regret not taking the deal while it was on the table. Okay, that's our discussion. There is a how do I want to put this carefully? I don't think I'm saying anything wrong here. There is an article at the New York Post, and I saw it making its rounds yesterday, that you have, we'll say, adult dancers. How's that? An adult dancer based out of San Diego, which is close to where troops are, said that servicemen from nearby military bases are lamenting a deployment scheduled for next week. Something I've noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money. They're kind of depressed. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to have fun, but you can tell someone's off and they're like, we deploy next week. Now, why do I mention this? Because where was the exact quote? So the video went viral online because it sounded as if she was almost giving away some secrets about soldiers being deployed. Others saw a problem, that these soldiers were apparently blowing operational security in an effort to get a pity party from their dancer. Marine officer and influencer Kagan Dunlap said, PSA, don't tell your adult entertainer you're deploying. You've got to remind your folks, don't talk to your barber about when you're deploying. Don't talk to your adult entertainment about deploying or when you're leaving or what you're doing or dates and times and locations, because they don't know any better. They're going to post a TikTok video about it, which is exactly what happened. Crazy story. Okay. So many people have kind of been talking about the hypocrisy of members of Congress. Members of Congress that have been spotted enjoying the good life in casinos at Disney World and overseas jaunts, while thousands of Department of Homeland Security workers go unpaid and airport security lines continue to wrap around the building. Now, pay did begin yesterday. I guess that really helped decrease, I should say, the wait time. Both the House and Senate adjourned last week for so-called work from district time, despite no agreement on ending the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Talks between Democrats who are using funding for the Transportation Security Administration and other vital Homeland Security agencies hostage in an effort to impose restrictions on ICE, and the GOP collapsed before the recess. TSA agents who make an average of $46,000 per year started getting some back pay yesterday, but only because of an executive order from President Trump. Other DHS workers haven't been paid since mid-February. Carolyn Leavitt saying Congress needs to come back. Democrats need to fund the Department of Homeland Security. On Sunday, Representative Robert Garcia, Democrat from California, the top Democrat on the powerful House Oversight Committee, was spotted at a casino bar in Las Vegas. he responded by saying, actually, I don't mind that TMZ is doing this. Like the story says, my dad has lived in Vegas for 15 years, and I had just finished lunch with him. I try to see him whenever I can. And like I said a few days ago, Speaker Johnson should have never sent us all home. Okay. You had other, and they're kind of exposing the hypocrisy through the pictures. Lawmakers in the House and Senate get paid a minimum of $174,000 a year, depending on their role. Their constitutionally protected paychecks come through regardless of whether the government shuts down due to a congressional deadlock. Over the weekend, Senator Chris Murphy posted a picture of himself posing next to late-night comedian Jimmy Kimmel at a No Kings rally. The Post contacted Murphy's office for an explanation about why he was so far from Connecticut. A bunch of Democrat-aligned lawmakers in Congress were seen at No Kings protests over the weekend after posting photos of themselves at rallies. We don't have to go through each one. But showing the hypocrisy as they travel and you suffer. Additionally, just hours after the Senate adjourned, I know Lindsey Graham was spotted at Disney World. Graham said, I voted 7 times to fully fund the government. Call a Democrat. Anyway, you can find the pictures if you really want to see your representatives. Now, the media is still trying to portray this somehow as a Republican shutdown. GOP leaders plan to keep Congress out of session even as pressure to end DHS grows. Okay. And then, of course, everybody's highlighting that Lindsey Graham went to Disney World. Don Bacon dismissed the tabloid photos as so they went through and showed the representatives that Republican, not as many Democrats as CNN here, taking it easy on the Democrats. But Don Bacon said, it's gotcha politics. The real embarrassing thing is we've had the 2 longest shutdowns this part year, and it's dysfunctional. This shouldn't have been hard to solve if people were willing to find consensus. I think that was sell. You can't get your act together to get a budget done. Guess what? You're not going to get paid. You get paid when everybody else is back to work. And by the way, you're never going to get that back pay. You lost it. Then you're not going to have any more shutdowns. So fair. That's Van Drew. That's not a bad point. All right. Now, the White House says that the President of the United States is urging Congress to suspend recess and get back and fund DHS. Carolyn Leavitt said the President has stepped in to do the right thing at this moment in time, but the President is also encouraging Congress to come back to Washington to permanently fix this problem and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security entirely. Leavitt said that Trump cannot just continue to sign memoranda and blasted Democrats for holding the entire country hostage. The president just can't keep signing presidential memorandums and proclamations every time Congress fails to do its job. And every time Democrats are holding our entire country hostage, picking and choosing which programs and agencies they want to fund just because they don't like this administration's policies. Democrats in Congress have pushed our air travel system to its breaking point and inflicted massive pain on Americans with their reckless political games. She also noted nothing will be truly normal again until Democrats do the right thing to fund the agency fully. Now, Gregory Meeks, a Democrat from New York, said, I don't want ICE at airports even if they do help. Kate Boldon said, if ICE agents at airports are helping alleviate some of these hour-long waits, are you okay with them sticking around? Meeks said, no. What are they doing there? That's not their job. They're not trained to do what the TSA workers do, and that's part of the crux of it. Are they going to walk around with masks and names and still have warrantless arrest or going into people's homes? That's what the American people do not want. They've seen them arrest American citizens, kill 2 American citizens, and also those who are here, who are immigrants, who have not committed any crimes or anything of that nature. So that's what part of the problem is. And this should be fixed, again, by the president and by the super MAGA Republicans, who refuse to do anything in regards to that. So even if it works, we don't want ICE in there. All right, we're going to talk about New York issues when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's championship in March at our Declaration of Deals event. Right now at Chilson Wilcox, save $10,000 on Ram 1500 during Truck Month. Choose for 25 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokees on the lot. Save $8,800. Or get 0% for 60 months or no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of loyalty and conquest offers, plus $2,000 in sell-down bonus cash. Declaration of Deals Championship and March event, now at Chilson Wilcox. Don't miss it. Hurry in today before the buzzer sounds.
When you're in the military, you reach a point in your career where you've traveled enough, and that was our situation, and we were ready to retire from the military, and we found a house here that we felt be a great environment for our children to grow up in. The process is, I would say, fairly easy. I've done it 3 times now, so I'm a repeat customer, and my message to veterans, active duty, retired, is that really seriously look at the VA home loan program. It has been transformational to my family because we were wanting to look for a home here in the DC area that we could settle down in, and building equity in the home is a big part of the program.
Home for me is family. It's a place where you know your neighborhood, you know your neighbors. It's not just the house, it's really what's around that makes it home.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid 50s to mid 60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over. Staying
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. New York State issues. The only one that matters is to get out and vote Republican. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, it doesn't matter how successful the Trump administration is on Iran. The legacy media already has the headline written. If he ends the conflict with no boots on the ground, an agreement from Iran that they will not rebuild the nuclear program, they will say he got played. Iran still has enriched uranium and that he wasted America's blood and treasure on gaining nothing. If the ends of the conflict with boots on the ground, an agreement from Iran that they will not rebuild the nuclear program, they will say he got played. Iran probably has more enriched uranium hidden somewhere and that he wasted America's blood and treasure on gaining nothing. You're right, Ken. Very much so. I agree. They have in so many instances like this where they have the headline already written. Oh, did you see this? Federal prosecutors are investigating whether a New York City council member and her sister, who happens to be an aide to Governor Kathy Hochul. Remember, we had the alleged Chinese spy that was working for Hochul's administration and Cuomo's administration. Now you have someone looking, again, federal prosecutors are investigating whether a New York City council member and her sister, who is an aide to Governor Kathy Hochul, accepted bribes or kickbacks in connection with the appropriation of city funds to a migrant shelter provider, according to a copy of the search warrant. The warrant, signed March the 19th, seeks evidence of possible criminal violations involving Councilmember Farrah Lewis, a Brooklyn Democrat, and Debbie Lewis, who serves as Hochul's Assistant Secretary of New York City Intergovernmental Affairs. A spokesman for Hochul confirmed that Debbie Lewis was placed on leave last week after the governor learned of the federal corruption investigation. A person who answered a phone number listed for Lewis promptly hung up after being asked about the probe. Okay. So feds probe whether New York City council member and Hochul's aide took bribes to help migrant shelter providers. Speaking of lawsuits, speaking of loss of money, New York is disputing it should pay $700,000 in legal fees to Cuomo former Governor Cuomo's secretary. Remember Melissa Del Rosa? At one point, they were saying that she might run for governor. The reason I mention this is the state comptroller's office is disputing that taxpayers should have to pay more than $7,000 in legal fees that attorneys for Cuomo's former secretary, Melissa Del Rosa, have billed the state over the past several years after she was dismissed as a defendant in the investigator's ongoing federal lawsuit. So you say, okay, she wants $700,000 because of this sexual harassment lawsuit put on by Cuomo. But get this, right at the beginning, remember, these lawsuits against Cuomo are still ongoing, and you and I are still paying for them. Are you ready for this? The taxpayer-funded legal fees for 3 sexual harassment lawsuits against Andrew Cuomo and his former aides have now topped $23.4 million, with more than half that expanded for a case in which a state police investigator alleges the former governor kissed her on the cheek and discussed sexually charged topics when she was assigned to his security detail. So whatever you think about the taxpayers funding Melissa Del Rosa's lawyer fees, $700,000 is way too much. But now with Andrew Cuomo, those taxpayer-funded legal fees, because you and I had to pay for them. I know you're saying, why would we have to pay for his, essentially, defense against sexual harassment? Well, guess what? We're on the hook for it. $23.4 million, and that continues to grow. There is a lot of people that made their fortunes off of you and I in the legal system because of the alleged touchiness of Governor Cuomo. Wow. Okay. I just saw that and it shocked me. I guess we had talked about it numerous times because remember when he ran for mayor, he didn't want anybody bringing this up. You know how he's got a temper. He didn't want anybody bringing it up about the taxpayer-funded lawsuits. But I can't get over it. $23.4 million that you and I have had to pay because of Cuomo. And then you wonder, why I said it's a perfect storm, why Mamdani won in New York City, because if you look at it, people just couldn't hold their nose and vote for Cuomo. When you have lawsuits like that, you see how he's acted, you see how he's behaved. They just couldn't do it. Now, I mentioned Blakeman. Standing outside City Hall on Monday, Republican candidate for governor Bruce Blakeman accused Governor Hochul of all but being a puppet of Mayor Zohran Mamdani, saying he's quietly preparing to raise taxes on his behalf. She's quietly preparing to raise taxes on his behalf. Kathy Hochul, Zohran Mamdani are spend more of your tax dollars, Blakeman said. Although he's running for governor, Blakeman made his pitch to New Yorkers outside the mayor's office yesterday, saying they're in league together. I affectionately call the governor Comrade Kathy. She's lockstep with Zohran Mamdani, She endorsed him. He's endorsed her. I firmly believe she has a secret plan, just like with congestion pricing, to raise taxes on the middle class once the election's over. If she should be successful, he added. Hochul's campaign did not specifically respond to the accusation, interesting enough, but did say while Bruce Blakeman can't stop touting Trump's illegal tariffs that made everything from groceries to clothing more expensive, Governor Hochul has lowered costs for New Yorkers at every opportunity, putting money back in the pockets, passing universal free school meals, and cutting middle-class taxes to the lowest rate in 70 years. I don't want to go with what Mamdani said. Blakeman is millions of dollars behind Hochul in raising campaign cash. He's filed paperwork to qualify for the matching funds program, but some are raising the alarm that he could be denied funding based on partisan lines. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but he said, if they take matching funds away from me, then you're going to see the tyranny of one-party rule in its worst form. They pass a law, I adhere to the law, I file, and then they come back and say, well, you had to file with your lieutenant governor. First of all, they were supposed to have a form that we had to fill out. They never created the form. So how can we fill out something that has never been created? These are dirty tricks. Government watchdog group Reinvent Albany said Blakeman's campaign should have gotten more help from the board. We are disappointed by the public comments of representatives of the Democrat majority on the board, which come across as small-minded and highly partisan. adding that the new law is supposed to encourage fair competition by offering public matching funds to candidates raising small contributions from the general public so as to offset the huge fundraising advantage of deep-pocketed special interest groups and protect public funds from misuse. While the facts and timelines surrounding the GOP's candidates' filings are complicated, his mistakes appear innocuous and nothing suggesting any intent to seek a special advantage. Brian Kolb, the vice president of the Public Campaign Finance Board, the Republican, said, I very much appreciate the release from Reinvent Albany as well as comments received from all others. I wholeheartedly support the recommendation that Reinvent Albany provides, and I hope my Democrat colleagues decide to as well. This is about the principles and integrity required to administer a fair and transparent program, and those should always be placed above partisan games. But Brian Keegan, the co-director of the board, appeared to blame Blakeman's campaign for the mishap. Public trust is not built by changing the rules after the deadline for a powerful candidate. It is built by applying the same rules on the same timetable to everyone seeking taxpayer-funded matching funds. Here, the path to compliance was clear. At the December board meeting, council advised that a candidate like Mr. Blakeman, who had already filed individually, would need to submit an additional filing. Unbelievable. You can tell, you can read the writing on the wall. We'll talk about this in just a moment. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you spend 100 years building chainsaws, you get really good at building chainsaws. So when Steel built the mower, we built the chainsaw mowers. New blade, same bloodline.
You may see a teen struggling to find his way. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we see a teen gaining the confidence and skills to land his first job. You may see a child wrestling with hidden battles. We see a child learning to manage life's twists and turns. And where you may see a distracted teen, we see teens making a difference in their community. Kids today need people to see their potential and help them achieve it. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we do whatever it takes to help kids succeed, from fostering confidence and community to preparing them for graduation and beyond. Because when we see young people, we see limitless possibilities. Do you? Join us, Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Trump isn't quite sure he's talking to the right Iranians for a peace deal. Say what? Why is Trump showing pictures of his Corinthian columned ballroom on Air Force One in the middle of a war? Hey, Donald, no one gives a hoot about your ballroom. Please, or people don't use ballrooms anymore. We don't need to blow millions of dollars on state dinners anymore. No one cares. Feed the people in this country that are starving. Let's do that for a change. So if Trump shuts off power and water in Iran, isn't that a war crime? You know how like Putin does and nothing ever happens? It's like a crime with no consequences. Just like Trump's convictions on 34 felonies with no consequences. Such a joke. The ballroom is an interesting stance, Rick. No one uses ballrooms anymore. They don't want state dinners anymore. In Washington, huh? Okay. New York GOP's governor, hopeful, is eyeing a lawsuit in regards to that matching campaign funding. Now, the problem with the Public Campaign Finance Board, right now, Democrats hold a 4-3 majority, and it's set to vote today on Blakeman's fate in the program, which is at risk over what critics called an easily correctable filing error. My campaign has already been certified for matching funds, and any attempt to disqualify it now would raise serious concerns about political interference, said Blakeman. If such actions occur, we will pursue legal remedies, including disclosure of communications that may involve Kathy Hochul and her campaign staff. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide, because it will look exactly like well, political interference. That's exactly what it is. Even the New York Daily News, which normally leans more to the left, said that politics and New York's matching funds, Bruce Blakeman must be approved for public dollars. The test will be whether the board allows the Republican gubernatorial candidate to be eligible for matching funds up to $3.5 million should there be a GOP primary, and up to $3.5 million in the general election against Governor Hochul, who, to her shame, is bypassing the voluntary program. Blakeman must be approved. To deny him on a partisan basis will kill this program that was first crafted by a special commission in 2019. Now, in full disclosure, I'm not a fan of this. I don't think that there should be the matching funds. I don't think you should have to pay for a candidate that you don't like using your tax dollars, but that's where we are. Now, I'm not going to go through everybody that's on the board and everybody who's used it. Blakeman did all the paperwork on time. Hood hasn't, which is his lieutenant governor candidate. That shouldn't matter, as they are a team. This is the first outing for candidates and for the PCFB. The board should want it to work, and it's not the fault of candidates that the regulations are at fault. Blakeman and Hood is a single ticket, and the board should approve them. That is what Sotomayor and O'Hara would do. The 7 commissioners meet this morning. The choice is theirs, so we'll keep an eye on it and see what they decide. We got a couple other New York State updates. Going to wrap up today's edition, so get your comments in, and we will be right back after this.
Getting the right representation.
It matters.
Hiring a law firm whose focus is motor vehicle accident cases.
It matters.
Hiring a firm with the experience and resources to maximize your recovery.
It matters.
William Mattar is the largest motor vehicle accident firm in New York State. We got that way by winning. If you're hurt in a car, it matters who you hire. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us, saying we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. It is a warm and wet start to what will be a rather warm and wet week. We'll have showers and thunderstorms possible for much of the day. Temperature pushing towards 72, which is 20 degrees above average. Staying mild tonight instead of the average of 28. Lows in the upper 40s to mid 50s. A touch cooler on Wednesday, staying in mid 50s to mid 60s, but additional rain, and we'll be back in the 70s before the week is over. Staying.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. And we go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Aren't these No Kings rallies nothing more than a celebration of losers? The losers in any other event in America never get together after their loss to remind everyone of their weakness. The left in this country is a special kind of needy. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, how about this scenario? Hillary Clinton runs for president with Hochul as her running mate. It gets Hochul out of here, and they both lose the election. Thank you, Mark. Finally, Ken writes in, I'll bet that Hochul will be so successful in dramatically lowering the cost of living for all New Yorkers that she knows we will be more than happy to have the New York City tax extended to all New Yorkers. Yes, I'm sure that will be the case. Hey, by the way, speaking of New York, just something interesting, if this is something, it doesn't seem like we always hear about this after the fact. New York law enforcement agencies issued 68,078 tickets statewide during the St. Patrick's Day impaired driving enforcement mobilization that ran from March 9th through March 17th. So a whole week of enforcement. The ticket total included 1,694 citations for impaired driving. Wow. So, all right. So this is being done in the name of DWI crackdown. Out of 68,078, impaired driving was 1,694. Then distracted driving, 2,577. Move over law, 520. Oh, here we go. Speeding, 11,907 of those. Seatbelt violations, 1,528. And then, this is weird to me, other violations, 49,852. What are those other violations? So the goal, of course, to keep people safe at St. Patrick's Day, make sure that they're not out drinking and driving. That was 1,694 of the total of 68,078. Just interesting. By the way, pepper spray could be easier to get under a new New York bill. Very simple, non-lethal safety measure. There's been calls for this for a long time. It is a kind of a, for lack of a better word, a non-lethal safety measure, as they said. She said it doesn't make sense these days that current laws make it harder to obtain legal pepper spray. Quote, this is just to make it a little bit easier so people have a way to protect themselves when they're out and about. It prohibits sales to people younger than 18 and to anybody with a felony record. We don't want to have this in the hands of kids, but we want to make sure that adults who are out and about feel safer than when they're out. I think it's a good idea. Under current law, only licensed gun dealers and pharmacists can legally sign up with the state police to sell pepper spray, something that would be scrapped under the new law. All right. And then angry parents are pushing for legislative action after that Meta court ruling. Phones should be illegal for kids under 18. That's what parents are demanding, so they want to make it a law. Interesting. Seems there's other ways around that. Enforcing kind of the law of your house, maybe, but I don't know. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Boy, we covered a lot of things, didn't we? A lot of different things. Okay. On tomorrow's broadcast, we're going to be talking with our good friend Doc Possum, who did such great music during the Salvation Army telethon that was so successful. $12,000 raised for the Salvation Army of Corning. And a vital, instrumental part of that program was music by Doc Possum. So he's going to be joining us. Just get a little update. We said we would do that after the telethon, and then here we are already in March, almost April, and we haven't done it yet. So I'm glad that he's going to be on the program tomorrow. Then on Friday, we have Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. So get your questions for either Doc Possum or Joe Sempolinski in at that number on the bottom of your screen. But that's, I'm excited that it's been a little while since we talked to Joe, and this is nearly the end of the petition season. So keep that in mind. If you are running for office and you get those petitions in, keep us in mind. We'd love to do interviews, talk about your campaign. After that's, of course, after the petitions are in and you've officially become a candidate. We would love to have you on the broadcast. So just keep that number handy at the bottom of the screen and reach out after your petitions are all set and you're ready to run. But having Joe on the program, as he is Assemblyman, former Congressman, and current GOP chair, we'll pick his brain and see how everything went. But that does it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you then. I look forward to it already.
It's Championship in March at our Declaration of Deals event. Right now at Chilson Wilcox, save $10,000 on Ram 1500 during Truck Month. Choose from 25 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokees on the lot. Save $8,800. Or get 0% for 60 months or no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of loyalty and conquest offers, plus $2,000 in sell-down bonus cash. Declaration of Deals Championship in March event, now at Chilson Wilcox. Don't miss it. Hurry in today before the buzzer sounds.